The reality of it is this. If no one that I know is against finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. However, the way that you go about doing it, you don't play with Americans' lives, you don't play with their jobs, you don't do things haphazardly where you have to fire people, then bring people back.
Can you name one thing you'd do differently?
What's happening, everybody? Well, much to Scott Jennings' chagrin, The View's Ana Navarro was invited back to join the panel on CNN. Scott Jennings waited patiently as Ana Navarro babbled on and on incoherently about everything she hates about Donald Trump and Doge. Anyway, after Ana Navarro was done and Scott Jennings woke up, he annihilated the entire panel, including the disgusting witch, Ana Navarro. Let's go.
Yeah, y'all got to bench Elon, man. Y'all gonna have to bench Elon. Elon is not going to be long for this world as a major American political figure. I watched his interview with Fox. He said, during the interview, he said, I don't know why I have to do this. He's annoyed at the perch that he is on right now and the way he's being perceived. He's opened himself up to a level of scrutiny that I don't think that he's going to be able to bear. I don't think so.
Well, his companies are certainly having a hard time.
Well, listen, I don't think we're going to have to pass the hat for Elon Musk. The guy's worth $300 billion. Do the math. If he put his money in tax-free government bonds, he would get $15 billion a year without touching the principal. So these setbacks that people are so concerned about, I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's patriotic what he's doing. I think that he's a disruptor. I think he is looking for fraud, corruption, and waste. And you know what? If we find fraud, corruption, and waste, and we end it, then we have more money for hospitals. We have more money for education. We have more money for infrastructure. Is that a bad thing?
I'll tell you what is not.
Let me tell you what is actually doing that, but there's actually not a lot of evidence.
I'll tell you what is bad and what is not patriotic is calling Mark Kelly a traitor. He called him a traitor today for having gone and visited Ukraine, which many Republicans and Democrats in Congress and in the Senate have done in the last several years. Mark Kelly is a naval aviator. He flew missions in the Gulf War. He has logged over 5,000 hours flying for the Navy. He then went on to be the pilot for the space shuttle. He serves in Congress. Elon Musk has absolutely no right, who has never served this country, who serves a president who made up a story about bone spurs so he could avoid the draft, has absolutely no right to call Mark Kelly, who is a patriot, who has served this country to the point of risking his life, and calling him a traitor. That is something we should all condemn.
I don't like that kind of language from either side, and it's gotten out of hand. I think that the discourse now...
I've had to do this a lot of times on the show, but like, I guess it's very easy to say either side to every single thing, but in response to what she said, what do you say about what Elon has to say?
Well, first of all, I would never denigrate somebody who served our country and call them a traitor unless I had material evidence that they were actually a traitor. So I think that Elon Musk is not a politician. He's not somebody that is what we would say politically astute. But I think he serves a great purpose in uncovering fraud, corruption, and waste, and I think it's a patriotic act on his part.
Look, I spent 5 years in City Hall working on government efficiency projects, and here's my advice for Elon. It's one thing to talk about efficiency, but what people actually care about, as you know, sir, as a local official, they care about efficacy.
So there's not a bigger fanboy of the U.S. military than me. That said, you can have gratitude and respect for a person and their military service and dislike their actions, opinions, or ideologies as a person. You know, you're talking about Elon Musk having an opinion I may or may not agree with, you may or may not agree with, on one person. So as usual, CNN has wasted our time with a non-topic. Another thing that didn't help Ana Navarro's little argument there was her acting. I mean, it was so over the top and in your face. I've got bad news for all the adoring Ana Navarro fans out there. I think that acting turn we'd all hoped she'd take is DOA, because her audition for outraged fake ex-Republican lady person went terrible yesterday. I'm disappointed, Anna, one of your weaker performances. Let's get back to it.
So if you look on the Doge board, it just shows how much they're cutting from the federal government. How about a board that shows how long passport times are taking, that shows how quickly people in the Veterans Affairs are getting their benefits? That's what people actually care about. And if he does that board and shows that he's making progress on that, that's showing that government is actually working for people. I think everyone here can get behind that.
Scott?
I think on the entitlement issue, which you played, the president is in charge. He has made it perfectly clear he is not touching Social Security, Medicare, and even Medicaid, other than to say if there is fraud in any program, he'd like to root out the fraud. That's period. He's the president. The buck stops with the president. He's been clear about that since he started running in 2015.
I mean, Republicans are getting ready to cut a lot from Medicare.
Well, you call it cuts. They're calling it could be slowing the growth of the program or rooting out fraud, but that's different than
I mean,
cuts.
well, here's the reason. Here's the reason I have a lot.
$880 million worth of fraud.
Yeah, and I have a lot of reason to doubt what you're saying because when
let me tell you something. There's a huge
hang on a
able-bodied
second.
population in this country that should not be on
Scott,
welfare. That is a true story.
Okay, first of all,
well, that's
welfare,
actually not true.
Hold on a second. Welfare is not the biggest driver of this, actually. But what I'm saying is that DOGE has put all this money on the board, and they've said, "Oh, this is waste, fraud, and abuse." And when you really look at it, they're just programs that that Elon and the president and random 20-something-year-olds don't like. So when you say fraud and abuse, there's not a lot of evidence.
The first word is usually waste, and they consider it to be waste.
Do you think
They
contract?
are not actually doing that. When Congress authorizes money for a program or a program is duly authorized, that's not waste, fraud, and abuse. That's just something you don't like.
Abby, everybody wants to find waste, fraud, and abuse until somebody actually does it.
Do you think people?
This
No,
is
it's
the
been
problem.
done.
This is the
No,
problem. They're actually saying, okay, maybe this is wasteful.
No, hold on for a second.
And then Washington goes crazy.
That's untrue. It's been done. The Clinton administration was able to put together an
30-something years ago.
Right, but the point of it is the way that they
never happened, and it
it's
definitely
been
happened
done.
in
But the way that they went about
Let me
it
ask you a
was
question.
to study for
Why?
6 months and then to take a longer time to understand which government jobs needed to be rooted out. He fired a bunch of people. He ended with a budget. It's been done. It's just the way that you guys are doing it.
I know.
Is
And the way that
absurd.
we're doing it is that you don't want us to do it. In 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion as a government. Last year, we spent $6.2 trillion. The government's gotten more expensive and much larger over the last 5 years. The only question Republicans have is, does it have to be this large and does it have to be this expensive? That's the question. And Elon's finally trying to cut into it, and the Republicans in Congress need to help.
Well, you guys should start it in your own house because your president drove up the deficit as much as anybody ever has, maybe more than anyone.
And why?
So
what happened at the end of Trump?
So then,
any memory of it?
I do remember. Even before then, though. Even before that, though. Everybody's got Google. So the reality of it is this: if no one that I know is against finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. However, the way that you go about doing it, you don't play with Americans' lives, you don't play with their jobs, you don't do things haphazardly where you have to fire people. Then
can you name one thing you'd do differently?
One thing I
like
do
what
differently?
you say.
No one I know is against waste, fraud, and abuse. Good. Then shut up. And how about that other joker? All they're doing is listing what they're cutting, right? And do you understand that if we had to get a consensus on everything to be cut, it would never happen? No matter what you cut, there will be those that aren't happy. A very small proportion of those people think this or that program or this or that funding is invaluable. It's a real small portion of the people that oppose all this stuff. Now, another small percentage are those that want the status quo. So that's a pretty small group because that really just, is a group of politicians, the people that are in their orbit. So that's a small group. Now, the last group of people that oppose DOGE and cuts and Elon Musk is by far the biggest part of that group. And that's folks that just oppose anything Republicans do or anything Donald Trump does. They don't even really know why they're opposing this stuff. So of those groups, there's one very small portion that probably really knows anything about what's going on at those agencies or the inner workings of those agencies. It's a small group that really knows what the hell they're talking about. And it certainly isn't these people. Anyway, back to the video.
You're going to make me in charge of those.
No, I'm asking.
Okay.
You say you're against waste, fraud, and abuse. What would you consider the government to do that's wasteful today?
Okay, well then what I would do if I was looking for waste, fraud, and abuse is I would start in the Defense Department and at the Pentagon. I would start with the Defense Industrial Complex of America, and I would look there.
I think Elon and you were in agreement on that.
Well, he hasn't.
The
question is, when are they going to get around to it?
Because the president already told them to do it.
I don't park rangers.
But hold on. One of the other things, you started your
Mm-hmm.
comment by saying the president's in charge. He's not going to touch Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's where all the money is, Scott, which is why
we're fighting over 28%.
No, he said he said he wasn't going to cut entitlements.
No.
They are going to look for fraud in Medicaid.
Bruce,
they are going to look for
I'm telling
fraud
you
in
what
Medicare.
Scott said. Scott said that he wasn't going to touch it. Elon said, correctly, that's where all the money is. So if you guys actually want to produce savings, you are going to have to touch it.
Actually, we started this.
We
started this segment. Wait, we started this segment talking about the fact that the president's closest aide, the guy who's attached at the hip to him, Elon Musk, called an American hero a traitor today.
Okay, but you said that already.
No, because you haven't condemned it.
What does that got to do with?
Because that's what this segment was about, actually, and you haven't condemned it. Because you want to talk about something else instead of condemning what is condemnable.
I will say that Bruce did. Well, maybe I shouldn't go so far as to say condemn, but you said that you do not condone that kind of language.
Bruce basically said chill.
So he did say that. But
let's talk what this is actually doing. I think the people who are paid to ID bodies of people killed in action who can't work right now are not waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that these kind of things that we're seeing, the people who oversee our nuclear stockpile are not waste, fraud, and abuse. These mistakes can't happen. It's too critical to our country.
The veterans who we promised we would protect.
We will never spend, unless some administration has the guts to see this through. We will never ever spend less. We will never have a smaller government.
I take
everything
your point.
has a constituency in Washington.
I take your point about finding the spending that you want to cut, but I think there's no question, even Republicans agree, and we talked about this last week, this has been done in a haphazard way to the point where the president himself had to hear it from his cabinet secretaries who were asking, what's happening at the VA? Why are you cutting all these people? The transportation secretary said they were trying to cut air traffic controllers.
I hope the cabinet, I hope the cabinet and Elon
they had to speak up because
work well together. The cabinet just got there,
well.
but ultimately, this is not a conversation that can be put off forever. And I feel like this is what Washington does. They try to just push it back as far as they can, and then we'll get the next guy in, and maybe it won't happen. That's how you go from $4.5 trillion to $6.2 trillion.
Even Republicans have begun saying that it needs to be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Yes,
and it has been a sledgehammer.
So Anna wants one panel member to condemn something that Elon Musk said. That's his opinion. Well, how about this? If you, Anna, condemn the BLM riots, the calls for violence outside Brett Kavanaugh's house, Antifa, we denounced January 6th. So now it's your turn to denounce. You know what? We'll start easy. Just denounce one thing the left wing has done. Can they do anything wrong? One last thing before I wrap up. I've done a bunch of Doge videos recently, and I'm noticing a sudden outpouring of support for veterans from the Democrats. Don't be fooled. Don't anyone watching let them do this. They're going out of their way to associate veterans with Doge and the cuts they're making. We're watching a clear attempt to manipulate people right in front of our eyes. I could do this same trick with any word. I think that Doge is showing that they don't care about mothers because many of the people that have lost their jobs are mothers. You see how easy and how lazy that is? Not to mention, how dumb do they think the American people are that they'll buy this bullshit? Scott said it best. Unless an administration has the guts to see this through, we will never spend less or shrink our government. 100% all of this is an attempt to kick the can down the road so eventually folks forget about it. We've got to keep our eyes on the prize and block out all these fake distractions. That's all they are. But what do you guys think about Ana Navarro's nonsense and Scott Jennings holding down the fort for us? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching videos of dumbasses like Ana Navarro just talking nonsense for, 10 or so minutes, then click on one of the videos that just popped up on my screen. Otherwise, as always, I've got the best viewers on the planet. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to just spend a couple minutes watching my video. It means a lot to me. Never forget, Jesus loves you. I'll see you guys.